On this episode of Resting Bitch Face, we're just going to be playing on our phones.
Yeah.
So, Dan Wall, hello.
Hello.
It's been a while since we've done a podcast together.
It has been a long while.
I would like to look back and see how long ago it was.
We've changed.
Probably shockers. But topic for today is building the right digital marketing team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we should know one or two things about that.
You'd hope so. So it's something that only business sort of has to be aware of, from tiny businesses up to big growing businesses. Marketing is obviously something that everybody's conscious of, and whether you build your team internally, externally, what sort of factors to look for and what to consider when you are building that team and expanding as well.
Yeah.
So a few things that I think we should cover today. Key roles needed in a successful digital marketing team, so what you sort of need to be looking to hire. How to determine which roles you actually need as a business, because not everybody necessarily needs to cover every single base. It's totally dependent on your business.
That can be a tough one anyway.
Yeah, massively. Balancing specialised skills with generalists, so sort of what the best mix is between the two, and making sure you get the culture and collaboration right in a digital marketing team as well.
You do realise I can answer all of those with 2 words against each one. It depends.
All right, Lee.
End of episode. Anyway, we digress, although that wasn't digression, that was absolutely talking.
We will expand.
We will.
So, number one. So let's start with the easy one. What are the key roles you should have in a digital marketing team?
Yeah, well, I guess this is starting to already be talking about like generalist and specialist, really.
Yeah, massively. Yeah.
And I know this is all going to merge into this whole episode, really, but I genuinely will say it depends.
Of course it does.
Because it does, in my experience. So, yeah, where we are an agency, so we are a digital marketing team with teams within it. So we're a little bit different.
Yeah,
because I guess we're thinking about brands. Well, we're thinking about all shapes and sizes.
Any business. Like you might have a tiny little business where they're just starting out and your marketing is being done by the founder who's also doing everything else. Yeah. And that's it. That's your whole setup.
Yeah.
And in that instance, that's probably the right thing for that person. Mm-hmm. And at that point, you might maybe work with your freelancer here or there. You might reach out to consultants who are working probably solo to keep the cost down a little bit.
And would you say that those freelancers or consultants, would you say they're more generalists? That's exactly how that scenario that you've just said. I imagine because resources finite is smaller, you're tending to go more down a generalist route.
I think you would, particularly because at that stage you'd probably be looking at more of a consultancy advice kind of direction. You wouldn't necessarily know what you want, where you want to split your resources, and what routes you want to go down for certain areas. So that's probably where you're starting out. But then you'd kind of go from that, and then you obviously have your sort of smaller teams, or you might have one individual who's most likely to probably be a generalist marketer.
Yeah, you'd say so.
And then as you build up, you might have teams where you get a couple of generalists, maybe bringing in somebody more specialist, up to your massive businesses where you almost have like a mini agency within the business, basically.
Which, to reflect like our setup as an agency, obviously an agency within our own right, not like sat within a brand as an in-house agency team, but you've got SEO, which is an umbrella term for 3 key disciplines here: technical SEO, content, and digital PR, with the lines blurred between some of those as well. And then obviously you've got paid media. Now, I've worked at agencies before, and I've come across agencies where paid media is then split up into channels.
Yeah, I've seen that before, yeah.
I'm going to say right now, that is not for me. That I do not think that that's the way that paid media, this is a slight digression, but we're talking about it. I don't think paid media teams should be siloed in channels, because ultimately a user journey today is cross-channel.
It is, but then I can see why you might have somebody that's much more of an expert in socials or whatever else.
Oh, yeah.
As long as it's all cohesive and it all lines up, then you are considering not just going from socials to the landing page or whatever else. You are actually thinking that they're going to see the ads across every single platform.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
But I don't see any reason for it to be split. You might have individuals within that team who specialise in different aspects or different platforms.
Yeah.
But they should all be together, really.
Yeah. I think, so yeah, like from a paid media perspective at our agency, you've got paid media sort of like channel agnostic specialists. So we don't have a specific paid social team or people. Everyone's well versed across the paid media spectrum, which maybe I'm biased, but I think that works better than the other way. But already I've just described, let's say, two bigger teams from a more high level, SEO and paid, and I know we're an agency, and I'm not saying every in-house team needs to and will look like an agency, both in scale and specialisms, but how many people is that I've just accounted for here? SEO is our SEO team nearly 15, somewhere between 12 and 15, and then paid, what are we on, 7 or 8 people? So there you go. Like, that's not many in-house teams are going to be that sizable, but then immediately when you get to that size, you've got almost that, you start referring to it as almost like that agency model, in-house agency model. So that's very specific to size of brand.
Yeah, of course it is, yeah.
I guess territories as well, like global, international, like remits come into it as well.
And again, that's where teams can be split, because you might have people that just specialise, say, in certain territories or certain countries, and that's kind of what they know best. And again, platforms change across different countries massively, so sometimes you do need that specialism and you do need that split out of people's skills. Yeah,
definitely. And then our other team is obviously design and dev. But yeah, I think that's a really good way. Like, you look at us as an agency, but as I keep saying, we are an agency. I understand, like, you can't just immediately compare our agency as a digital agency as the equivalent that you need to build internally in-house as a digital marketing team. And to be honest, like, there's obviously a hell of a lot of value in having an agency instead of building that type of size.
Yeah, of course it is. And also sometimes, like, it weighs up like what you want to spend, really. So if you're looking to have the, early doors, like I said, you're going to start off with a couple of people, but as you build it up, obviously the thing that increases hugely is your wage bills as you increase the size of that and increase, getting experts in that, specialists in certain areas. So there's always that thing of weighing up how much that's going to cost you internally versus what, say, a retainer would be for an agency that incorporates all those people within that one fee.
Yeah.
And quite often, and I think this is why a lot of businesses do use agencies, is because if they had to employ 10 people versus one agency that gives you 20 people, it quite often works out a little bit cheaper to go down the agency route.
There's
there's so many things to consider. And I think that's it. It's making sure it's very dependent on the size of your business and what you are actually wanting to look at, and also what you want to specialize, like what area you want to specialize in. Like, a generalist marketer is where most people would start out, but say full well your entire audience, you want to get them through social media. That's probably where you want to focus, and that's probably the expert that you want to bring in at that point. Or if you know full well you just want to hammer paid ads, you still need somebody that's a bit of a generalist, because you've got to do everything else that goes with all of those things. But that's really important to consider when you're looking at where to invest the money into your team.
100%. You've just made me think about this. If you think about our agency, I've mentioned those different teams. You'd say that the people in those teams are the specialists in that area. So the SEO team, they're SEO specialists, the paid team, the paid specialists. But, and this is a massive but very interesting to think about, the integration between teams actually sort of forces a little bit more, because you're basically knowledgeable and skilled to a certain level in then other teams' specialisms because of integration between teams. Like, you're a marketer, I'm in sales, but if we didn't have that massive crossover between us, and then also we're representing the services that we offer, we have an understanding, a more of a generalist understanding across everything.
Yeah, but you've got to know enough about it to be able to actually communicate that and answer questions on it.
Yeah. So you've got it almost in our agency, you've got designated specialists, but they also come with a big layer of generalist due to their exposure to other specialist areas, due to working as a integrated team across the agency.
And do you know, I always think that's the other really beneficial thing for in-house marketers working with an agency externally, because you actually learn a lot.
Yeah.
Because if you come in as a generalist and say you're sort of like and this is a lot of what we tend to often work with, isn't it? You know, if it's say like a bit of a smaller brand or something, might be one or two people maybe in the marketing team, and they're very much generalist marketers. And actually what they gain from working with an agency and working with different specialists is more knowledge in each of those areas that's actually explained to them.
Yeah.
And it can actually be, so it's actually a great way to educate your team and build up your team, not necessarily through hiring, but through upskilling.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we are finding ourselves having more and more conversations, because our conversations are way more in depth than they may have been, I don't know, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, from a new biz perspective. When we're speaking to like prospective clients, we've gone through all the pitch process. If we've done that, the conversation becomes so like blown out. You're almost talking about everything that could potentially happen. And one of the things we're finding we have a great answer for, and we have structures around, is like, how this is the brand speaking to us. How are you going to upskill our? How are you going to? What are your mechanisms for knowledge transfer and upskilling into our team? Because we're not just looking at you, and this is great, this is the way we want it. We're not just looking to our agency to provide a service and stop there. It's not ticking a box.
Yeah.
Oh, we need an SEO agency, for example.
And we just want to do our SEO, and we're not going to know anything
that's
about
it. That's just so transactional. That's actually not what we're looking for either.
And there are businesses out there that want that. We don't tend to work with them.
No, we know we do our best work when we are as closely connected and integrated, both within our agency, but also then with our brand in-house, clients in-house.
And that's
team.
fine. And do you know, there's nothing wrong with those businesses where they just know full well that's not something they're actually interested in knowing any more about. I'm just saying, right, I'm just going to pay somebody, I'm going to leave them to sort it. Fine. That is fine. The only problem you potentially got there is, how do you prove the worth of it? How are you accountable for what's going on and why you're spending your money?
If you find a dodgy agency, then they're just going to pull the wool off. Yeah, exactly. But
there's nothing wrong with that. If that's how you want to operate your business, then do you know what? That's one of the reasons agencies exist, to take it off your hands entirely.
Yeah, but it's I know I'm going to keep saying this, but I joked about it at the start. It depends. There's also, we've talked about like when we've worked with smaller clients before, and smaller just being small team. We also work with multi-million turnover businesses who also have a small team, marketing team, because they rely so heavily on agencies, which is another great setup for us. So, you want to still pull in a direction that is so aligned and integrated with those people, even if it's a one-person team or a two-person team. But where we find there's maybe a few more people involved in marketing. They're not in the marketing team at our clients, but you're talking board members, which again is a good thing for us, because we want to get the output of our work, we want to get that as into the board as possible with our clients, because that's where you can prove the worth of what you're doing to the right audience, and that's where you build more, we find long-lasting, sustainable relationships. So the size of the brand and the turnover of a brand very, very rarely equals the size of that in-house team.
You could compare two brands like with the same turnover.
We've been surprised by talking to brands where we're like, oh, you've got someone for e-com, you've got someone for digital. These are just generalising here. I'm just sort of sweeping statements, but you've got someone for e-com, you've got someone and like different seniority within e-com. Then you've also got digital, then you've got content, then you've got social, and you've got various different seniorities. And you're like, wow, you've got a massive marketing team. And they're like, yeah, but we still need an agency. And then you'll get others on the complete opposite.
What, like 50 odd stores across the country, and they just have a marketing team of like 2 people. Like, how?
Yeah. But that's where specialists and generalists comes into it. And that's also then where agencies come into it as well.
Massively, yeah.
So it depends.
Of course it does, yeah. And that's the whole point of these conversations. But I think it's, we all know how important marketing is, and there's lots of figures that get thrown around of how much you need to put into marketing, what percentage of what you need to put in, who needs to be here doing what, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's very, very business dependent, very goal dependent.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you're just starting out and you're maybe just looking at, I don't know, like brand awareness as a starting point, which, to be fair, if you're starting out, that's where you should be starting.
Yeah.
That's great for a generalist marketer to come in and help build up some brand awareness and
Yeah.
But then if you're wanting to increase sales drastically, we know full well paid is probably a great area to focus on. And at that point, your generalist marketer might have some limited knowledge of paid, but not to the extent that an expert would, because it's so fast moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got to be in that constantly to actually understand what's changed, what's
even just look at GA4 when it came in, like still now, like the absolute mindfuck that has thrown a very experienced marketers, be it agency or in-house, don't matter, very experienced, savvy marketers just into a spin because it's an absolute mindfuck.
Yeah.
And leaning, that's where you feel like you don't, I personally, I'm only speaking for hypothetical opinion, I wouldn't want to be a single in-house marketer at the point of which you might have a multi-channel user journey. So if you're working for an e-com brand and you're having to make header tail of attribution and GA4 and stuff by yourself, like that, it's just, you need the back.
I have to get Daniel to explain to me once a week.
You need the back. But he loves that. You need the back. You need to be part of team. You need sounding boards. You need knowledge. And yeah, I'm obviously biased, but we get exposure at such a scale and variety in an agency because we work across loads of different clients that's the kind of digital team that I personally think comes leaps and bounds in terms of value versus an in-house team where it might be on the smaller scale and you're expected to chip in and do lots, and then a fucking GA4 comes along and you're like,
hello.
Yeah, what am I doing now?
I'll just quit now.
Yeah, like genuinely. But it does depend, and you're right. Goals is a great way, as always, to think about like what are we looking to achieve. What's the word? Recruit. If you're going to recruit or hire an agency around those goals.
Yeah, definitely. And I think your budget's going to play into it massively.
Yeah.
Depending on your size, depending on what kind of budget you've got to play with.
Yeah.
That's hugely going to determine what you can actually invest in a marketing department. I think it's just always, well, it's quite often just the last thing people think about.
Yeah.
They set all their budgets and they put this little pot, like, we'll spend that on marketing, we'll do it on bits. But, and I think we've actually got another episode coming up, which Ez is going to do, who is our CFO.
Oh, yeah.
About budgeting for marketing and kind of like, so I'm not going to go into it too much because also not my area.
You spend the money.
Yeah. I get given the pots.
Yeah. I'll spend it.
Someone else tells me what they are.
Yeah.
But that's it. It's, that will determine massively what you can invest and how that team's going to look. So I think it's just very important to consider whether, like you said, what your goal's going to be and whether that's more suited to your generalist marketers or building up a small team of specialists, and then how you sort of grow that.
And the thing is, nothing's set in stone either.
No.
So that digital team or whatever you've landed on today as the way that you want to go forward has to change, has to evolve, and it has to evolve as the business evolves, obviously. So don't get set in, we have to have, whatever marketing team that we've got right now, be it generalist, specialist, small, big, medium, that it just, inevitably it has to change, and your agency can change with that. And, you can almost you can scale up and upskill your agencies as you move through.
Yeah, of course you can.
Your own business, what's the word? Evolution.
And also, like, your agent, the type of agency you need might change.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Like, you might start off and the agency you work with might be just a team of like 5 people that kind of suit what you need at that moment, have enough skills within that set of people to fit your business needs. But then you might grow and you might be like, actually, we need more than they're able to give us.
And that's fine.
And we need more resource, and that's it.
That's fine for the agency, and that's fine for the brand.
Of course it is. And that's it. I think, it works either way, whether you're in-house or hiring an agency.
Yeah.
There is always going to be need for change.
Yeah, definitely. Don't get stuck. Don't feel like it's stuck, whatever today is. As you evolve, you might have to bring teams, reduce teams, or upsize, scale up, whatever I'm trying to say, agencies and or teams, and the skill sets of those as well. Like you said, I know when I joined Flaunt, I was, I think, the 9th member of staff then. We're nearly 40 now. So I've even seen like that difference though, like, and it happens. And we've grown, but we could still today be an agency of around 10 people. There's nothing to say we couldn't have just stayed at that. And we would see clients come and go because hopefully you'd do a great job with maybe early stage clients. Not always early stage, didn't have to be, but like proof of concept of digital transformation clients that then want to move on to bigger because they've grown and they outgrow you. That is fine. We've grown, as I said, so now
totally
we're
normal.
with different scale, but it's absolutely normal. And it's still, sorry, it depends.
There's something you said there that actually I think brings out another point. So you said whether you, as you sort of like might need to increase, but you also might need to decrease.
Yeah.
So I think if you're building internally, I think that actually comes back to you do need some generalists in there. So say you built up this marketing team and then, you just had a specialist for like each area, right? And then for whatever reason, you needed to downsize that a bit.
Yeah.
So suddenly you let go of one person and you've lost an entire area.
Specialism. Yeah.
Whereas if you have a generalist that sits in amongst all those specialists who has a little bit of knowledge here, is able to pick up more off the specialists, work closely with them, and is kind of like a hybrid person between all those various things. If worse came to worse and you did have to make changes to that team, or not even you making changes happen to that team because you sometimes do have a gap in a hiring process. If somebody chooses to leave, it's not as easy to just replace somebody straight away. Then your generalist can step in as like a bit of cover to obviously not do it to the same level as a specialist would, but at least be there to plug the gap. Yeah,
pretty versatile, which is definitely what you need. Obviously, in line with that, we've had clients who grow their teams and then they've probably grown their internal teams too fast and then they've had to pull back. But interestingly, I think from an agency's point of view, where I feel like we do our best work, and I was trying to think whether we do our best work when our points of contacts are generalists or specialists.
Okay.
And I actually don't know. I was thinking then when you were saying like, oh yeah, it's important as well for our points of contact at client side to be super like with us as with us on SEO.
Yep.
As Daniel and team could be talking to them on a weekly call.
Yeah.
As we need them to be, but I'm not sure about that because again, we have such a variety of different clients with such a different setups in terms of their sizes, in terms of the marketing teams, etc. And I actually think we work with an absolute mix, and I don't think I can see one being better than the other, which I think we wanted to discuss, and it might bring us on very nicely, around like collaboration and culture and communication, be it like us with our clients. I actually think it doesn't matter as much whether our client contact is a specialist or a generalist, as long as there is the fit there and you can, if they need it, upskill them, transfer any knowledge you can, hold each other's hands because the culture that you've built together and the collaboration is there, then I think you can smash it.
Yeah, 100%. And do you know what? The collaboration and culture thing then again plays massively into something you've just mentioned about sometimes people grow the marketing team too fast and then realise they've done that and it's not really working. And a lot of that, then the reasons it's not working is often down to that collaboration and culture point of view.
Communication.
100%.
Yeah.
So if you are going to have this team of lots of specialists, what you inevitably will end up there is all these specialists who all think that their service is the best thing going.
Yeah.
So you end up with a little team with, I mean, better way to say it, but a lot of egos quite often.
Because
you've got one person that believes paid is the best thing ever. You got one person who thinks SEO is absolutely where everything's at.
Yeah.
And if you're bringing people in, they need to have the respect and the knowledge of the other services to understand how it should all work together and how they should all work together as a team. And that's something that we've definitely seen before.
Yeah.
Where the teams don't actually really have each other's back. And that's hugely down to like culture within a business.
Yeah.
But marketing is one department where that is rife.
It is. Yeah, completely. And interestingly, from my selfishly just talking about sales and being in sales in a marketing agency, I'm very happy to say, not at Florm, I've been in places where you've got a pitch opportunity for just say SEO and paid, the ego kicks in for paid, catch wind of it and go, but we're going to sell paid in, and then all of a sudden it's like steamrolled in.
Yep.
Paid have come in and basically taken over from what was an SEO opportunity, and then they've just completely missed the mark, and it's like, that only happened because you were self-centered in your area of specialism.
Yeah. And internally that can look like, you've got this pot of money that's for marketing. And if those teams aren't working collaboratively and talking to each other about what needs to be done, what they need, all of a sudden paid might, very easy example to pull from because it's an easy transactional area, but paid might be the ones that just go, right, we'll have all that money.
Yeah.
Let's sink it all into this. Yeah. And not considering like where else that needs to be split to, what other teams need, like what's actually important for the business. Yeah. And if you don't have the culture right and you don't have the collaboration within that team correct, they're the issues you see.
100%. And that's what I was saying, like that's in a team and within a team, but it's equally as important for what we do with our clients, agencies and client relationships, that collaboration and understanding and whatever, like that doesn't always happen. I've seen it not happen. And that's where my mind was going to be like, do we work better with a specialist or a generalist? Well, no, I don't actually think it comes down to that. I think it comes down to all the things we just talked about there. Definitely communication and things we've talked about on other episodes like expectations management and, the responsibilities and things. But ultimately, foster a bit of a culture that works for both sides, and then the specialist generalist thing falls a bit away in terms of its potential impact on it. I'm thinking negatively, but like its potential negative impact can be mitigated, I think, with things above that, which is communication, hopefully, collaboration as well, but hopefully a culture that enables positive, successful working relationship when ultimately you have got an agency and a client and they are two separate entities.
Yeah, that's it.
Whereas a team, internal team, you should, in theory, it never works like this, but you should have more control over influencing that culture. But that doesn't always happen. We've just talked about a few examples there. But yeah, the culture and the communication thing is vitally important. But yeah, it was interesting to see if I could think about specialist or generalist for us, client side, but I don't think it matters as much as what we just talked about.
No, I think that's it. So,
I feel like we've done a lot of talking there.
Ooh, a lot of talking.
What have we talked about?
Building the right digital marketing team, finding the right mix of roles, balancing specialists with generalists, and creating a collaborative culture within those teams as well. So, yeah.
Get in touch if anyone needs any advice, help, or anything.
We've just given an awful lot of different opinions there, so if anybody needs clarification on any of them, please give us a shout.
That's because it's the nature of it.
That's it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you need to set out to establish the right resource for now, and knowing, I think, that can change and should change.
Yeah, definitely.
Based on what you're trying to achieve.
Do you want this or that?
Yes.
Yes, you never get asked.
No, I don't.
Okay. Specialist or generalist? Quick fire, what would you pick?
Specialist.
I'm biased towards generalist because that's who I am. If I was just starting out...
Don't make me second.
If I was just starting out, I'd just a generalist straight away.
Don't make me second guess it.
Okay.
I can't think.
In-house team or agency support?
Biased. Agency.
Both. You need both.
Yeah, but you're giving me this or that.
Oh, sorry.
I have to pick one.
Fine. I'm being late. This is interesting. Right, so which of these would you hire first? Social media manager or content strategist?
Oh, I'm going to go for social.
Yeah, I think I would too.
I'm not...
Just really with the way of the world.
Convinced with that, but I'm going to stick with it.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Again, you're hiring a team. You've got a little bit of money. You have to hire one or the other of these. SEO specialist or paid specialist.
SEO.
Yeah, I'd start with SEO.
Oof.
That's hard.
You're saying starting out, that's the bit that's thrown me. I would, without that context, I'd have said SEO, but the starting out bit, because there is an argument to get results quicker. Not saying SEO is no longer such a long turnaround like it used to be, but paid is typically quicker. It's that thing of like, oh, do you go for paid and reinvest it and then you've built quicker that way? But I'm just thinking about brand now, and investing against something that, yeah, I'm going to go SEO, brand. SEO for brand.
I'm going to ask you the question. It's not this or that though. If you were hiring a marketing team right now, like building one, what order would you hire the roles in? Start with a generalist. As your one person. Right. So say you're hiring somebody like every few months and you were building it up today like that.
So we're starting with the generalist.
I think I'd start with a generalist.
But then when you start going specialist, where does the generalist go?
I think for me, I'd kind of want them like overseeing and assisting. So they might sometimes like help with
operational.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Okay. What did I say? You asked me this or that. You said social.
Social versus content.
Would you go? Although the generalist, I feel like
that's it. It does depend a little bit on. So they could.
I'd get someone for SEOing soon.
Yeah, I think I'd start with SEO pretty early.
Won't neglect paid too far behind.
Do you know we've not mentioned once? Creative.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's
the generalist could do it.
That's something that literally every single one of those services kind of
needs. No, you're right. That's a good point.
So maybe
can the generalist do it?
Canva.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Hannah.
Canva.
I think I'd probably go generalist. I think I'd definitely do SEO early on.
Yeah, I would.
And then personally, I think I would then actually probably do socials after SEO because I think you're kind of focusing on your organic to start with.
Yeah. Brand.
That's it. That started with brand awareness. It started with organic brand awareness, which is super important, I'd say, just from an overview point.
What point do you hire Flaunt?
Back here at the beginning. And then
day one.
Then maybe go into paid and
with Flaunt.
And what else you need?
With Flaunt. We'll build your website.
We work at Flaunt. I don't know if anyone knows.
Yeah. Hire us.
Thanks. Let's call it.